They always assume it is.
Can I have it? Once more, may the houses become homes, not monuments of a way of life abandoned. Once more, may the hospital become preoccupied by accidents, tumors, and viruses. Once more, may the museum, now a barracks, become a museum with an annex on the subject of war, in honor of a new and permanent peace. Words anonymous from Croatia. Good morning. Welcome to Cross Street Chapel. Apologies, Cross Street Chapel Sunday service. As you can tell, I still have a bit of a cough. I continue to do testing. I'll continue to wear the mask, to wear the visor. I hope that's okay for everyone. Welcome to Cross Street Chapel's Sunday service, particularly Remembrance Sunday. It's not in the order of worship, but we will be having 2 minutes of silence at 11 o'clock. I don't include it in a specific portion, as I'm never quite sure how quickly or slowly it will progress. So if it comes to it, we will just simply stop at that point, which I think is almost more poetic in a sense, more of a recognition to just stop what we're doing, to give honor and remembrance to those who have died fighting for causes, a cause of peace, cause towards peace, which is where we are geared towards today. Not just an acknowledgement of people who've died during or active in or in some way related to war, but the ultimate goal of humanity being one towards peace in all its complexity and challenge. Whatever it is that has brought you into this space, be it a place of tears and sorrow and sadness, a place of joy and laughter, a place of perhaps a few words of wisdom, or perhaps just a chance to rest with the divine. Whatever it is that you've come seeking here, I hope it will be found, as well as a warm community. We continue in our worship, connecting ourselves to Unitarian chapels across the world with our chalice lighting. Today we have the words of Penny Hackett Evans. As others before us have sought to make ordinary times special by lighting a candle, we now seek to transform this ordinary time into a special and sacred one by lighting the flaming chalice, the symbol of our faith. Please join with me in singing our first hymn in the Green Book, number 219, The People's Peace by John Holmes, hymn number 219. Let us turn now to a time of prayer. Graceful hero, whose sword is compassion, whose horse is understanding, whose armor is perseverance. Let the fog of war be dispelled by the light of peace. May gentleness and understanding always be what we seek in all our dealings. May a world without violence be our goal. Let us give thought for those who died for peace, whether on the battlefield or in the protest. Let us remember those who saw terror in the trenches and those who languished in prisons seeking the return of soldiers. Let us be thankful for those who sought after peace and sacrificed their lives so that others may know it. Let our tears be shed for those who have died when peace was not the goal of those who sent them. May we never again shed blood in wars built for material gain, where soldiers live in poverty. May the vulnerable in the world be protected. May reason and compassion rule over ideology and hatred. Swords into plowshares. Swords into plowshares. Swords into plowshares. Amen. We turn now to our covenant, which you will find in your order of worship and will appear online for those listening. We gather here in sacred fellowship to witness the fullness of our lives and all life, to hold and be held, tell stories and listen, to be renewed and renew the world. We speak with care and patience. We act with gentleness and compassion. We forgive each other and ourselves. In faith that we build beloved community, we renew our covenant today. Amen. Our first reading is the poem Turn Back, O Man by Clifford Bax, most well known for being set to music by Holst. Turn back, O man, forswear thy foolish ways. Old now is earth, and none may count her days. Yet thou, her child, whose head is crowned with flame, still wilt not hear thine inner God proclaim. Turn back, O man, forswear thy foolish ways. Earth might be fair, and all men glad and wise. Age after age their tragic empires rise. But while they dream, and in that dreaming weep, would man but wake from out his haunted sleep. Earth shall be fair, and all her people one. Nor till that hour shall God's whole will be done. Now, even now, once more from earth to sky, peals forth in joy man's old undaunted cry. Earth shall be fair, and all her folk be one. Turn Back, O Man by Clifford Bax. We come now to the candles of joy and sorrow. This coincides with it turning 11 o'clock, so I will light a candle in recognition of those who have died in the service of others. And then we will, before I invite everyone else to come forward, we will hold those 2 minutes of silence. May they know eternal peace. Amen. So you are invited to come forward to light a candle from your own life or from memories. If you wish to say a few words, please come to the microphone so those who are listening online will be able to hear you. If you are online, you can write into the chat box and I will read out the message. And you are, of course, invited to light a candle in silence, if you so wish. And as always, if you wish to remain seated, know that your presence here is enough. from Adam. A candle in memory of my grandpa, John Francis O'Leary, always known as Frank, who fought in World War II. For all those joys and sorrows here spoken, and those that remain silently in our hearts. Please join with me in singing our next hymn, this time in the Purple Book, number 187. We ask that we live in peace. And Catherine is going to play through the tune, the melody, one time so that we become familiar with it. Thank you. Our second reading is written by a colleague of mine, the Reverend Fergus O'Connor. It's entitled A Remembrance. I've entitled it A Remembrance Day Reflection, as it doesn't have any specified title. 11th of November, 1918, 103 years ago, marked the end of the First World War. let us reflect on the truly terrible scale of death and destruction it caused. Approximately 10 million combatants were killed. 21 million were wounded, disabled, lost limbs, or were blinded. Around 8 million civilians lost their lives. Unknown millions mourned the deaths of loved ones. Millions of innocent animals, including 8 million horses, mules, and donkeys, were sacrificed. The loss of countless billions in economic damage resulted. In France alone, around 3 million buildings and millions of hectares of agricultural land and forest were destroyed. The environmental damage of the war was incalculable. The war's eventual legacy was unprecedented political and economic dislocation, the rise of fascism, and the even more devastating global catastrophe of the Second World War, which itself claimed over 60 million lives. It has been estimated that the total number of lives lost in wars over the last century is well in the excess of 100 million. 100 million. Men, women, and children. We are still living with the human and environmental consequences of these murderous conflicts. It is therefore fitting that we should solemnly remember all the dead of the First World War and all subsequent conflicts and the loss of over 100 million lives, not just by commemorative words, but by humanitarian action to save millions of lives today in the two most murderous wars, including those in Yemen and Syria, being waged in our own time. It is appropriate that this life-saving appeal should go through the Red Cross, which was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for its humanitarian works of mercy during and after the First and Second World Wars. Let us show how much we care by our life-saving actions. A reflection on war in the past 100 years, 103 years, by the Reverend Fergus O'Connor. This is followed now by a responsive reading, The Young Dead Soldiers by Archibald MacLeish. I'm afraid it's not available for those listening online, but it is printed in the order of worship for those who are here physically present. I will read the plain text, and then you can reply with the bold. The young dead soldiers do not speak. Nevertheless, they are heard in the still houses. Who has not heard them? They have a silence that speaks for them at night and when the clock counts. They say, "We were young, we have died, remember us." They say, "We have done what we could, but until it is finished, it is not done." They say, "We have given our lives, but until it is finished, no one can know what our lives gave." They say, "Our deaths are not ours, they are yours. They will mean what you make them." They say, "Whether our lives and our deaths were for peace and a new hope, or for nothing, we cannot say. It is you who must say this." They say, "We leave you our deaths, give them their meaning." We were young, they say. We have died. Remember us. And so we return to a time of prayer with words by Tess Ward titled Poppies. Giver of peace, I pray for an end to war. But there can be none without living for peace. I pray for peace in the world. But there can be none without peace in the nations. I pray for peace in the nations. But there can be none without peace in the communities. I pray for peace in the communities, but there can be none without peace between neighbors. I pray for peace between neighbors, but there can be none without peace in the home. I pray for peace in the home, but there can be none without peace in the heart. Give peace in my heart this day. And when the fighting of this world overwhelms me, let me know that peace begins with me. And so we enter into a period of silence for reflection, meditation, contemplation, and personal prayer. Thank you, Catherine. We come now to our next hymn, God Weeps, with words by Shirley Orena Murray. This is in the Purple Book, number 54. And again, Catherine is going to play through the melody so we can familiarize ourselves with it. Thank you, Catherine. A challenging hymn to follow on from, especially as I'm going to begin with a brief comment on Christmas. There's a lot of discussion about whether Christmas is becoming too early. And of course, in previous years, this is always often described or seen as a negative. But many people are drawing into Christmas a bit earlier than they have in times past. And it's the level of tolerance for people to allow that is improved, shall I say, tolerance being important and care and concern for our fellow neighbors. Now, one tradition I have tended to do in the Christmas period, which for us wouldn't begin for another fortnight, is to have one service where I talk about a film, a Christmas film. I'm going to bring that forward today, as you'll understand why very imminently. So the film that has been on my mind is the film Joyeux Noël, and I'm curious if anyone here has seen it or heard of it. I know Catherine has, because we've seen it. We actually showed it here in our film club many years ago. Joyeux Noël explores the first Christmas of the First World War, and there was a great deal of conversation around this back in 2014, if you remember, when we were marking the centenary of the start of World War I, because many groups of soldiers on the front line, I think partly anticipating that the war would not be as long-standing, as intense as it turned out to be. That first Christmas, there was agreed to be a ceasefire amongst the soldiers on opposing sides. This is not uncommon, this sort of a recognition of some either higher power or greater spiritual or a moral need to recognize times when we set aside arms and we rest and we recover. But these Christmas truces were more than that, because not only did it involve the setting aside of arms, it was actually the engagement of opposing sides in conversation. They actually met in the middle and talked with each other. They didn't just talk with each other, they ate food together. They shared meals. They shared stories. They didn't just share meals and stories, they also worshipped together. In the film depicting a mass amongst the nations. They even played a friendly football match together. A sort of large element of the story of the film deals with the repercussions of that event and of the return, the intention to return to war, to pick up the arms again as if nothing had happened. And this is where my lack of historical knowledge, ventures. I know the film, when it came out, I forget if it was Roger Ebert sort of described it as being a bit sentimental, which I think, according to film critics, can be quite a negative term. I love sentimental films at times. But when they return, with the intention of picking up arms, they find that they cannot. They engage in various delay tactics, waiting for the other people to fire the first shot. They send messages across from one to the other, and they generally experience a discomfort at being instructed in some task that they now recognize to be inhumane. They have met the other, and they have learned that the other is actually them as well. The armchair generals back home, of course, don't like this and seek to sort of remove the leadership that had allowed this to happen so that they can get on with this war. One such scene involving, in this circumstance, involves a priest from Scotland who is sent back to his parish. And his replacement comes to the troops and quotes from the Gospel of Matthew. I come not to bring peace, but a sword. He expounds on this simple line of verse, instructing the British troops that their enemies are not them, that they don't behave like them, that they're not children, not children of God. What a small religion. What a small religion. Why pick one verse when you can draw upon the whole canon of beauty and love and compassion, care for the widow, for the orphan, for the stranger? Swords into plowshares. Peace that comes falling like an ever-flowing stream. We have a choice. We can have and occupy a small religion, or we can recognize the vast magnitude of the world in all its diversity and its unity, that which sets us apart and that which brings us together. Peace must be larger than we can imagine it to be. As John Holmes talks about in our first hymn, the people's peace is not the one of death, that everlasting sleep. It's not the one of gentle silence. It is tricky and it is hard. And it involves conflict, but not violent conflict. The people's peace is the one that enriches us all. Peace must be larger than we imagine it to be. "20 years ago, I was opposing the Iraq War, and I've been a steadfast sort of pacifist, peace proponent. I've served on the committee for the Unitarian Peace Fellowship for some time now. And in that time, I haven't changed completely. I still hold that as my core, but I do recognize what I might describe as a certain maturity for myself, an acknowledgement that we reach points perhaps where conflicts are inevitable. We reach points where violence somehow becomes what we think to be the only answer. Though I will always engage with people who want to find peaceable solutions. So we acknowledge today those on the battlefield who were fighting for peace, who felt that their part in the conflict would help lead to a greater world of peace and care for one another. We set aside and we refute those cynical voices that use war as a machinery for economic profit, for personal gain. And we seek evermore that people's peace. Peace must be larger than we imagine it to be, for we will be part of it, but not the whole. Amen. A few notices before we conclude with our final hymn. Next week, our service, we mark the Transgender Day of Remembrance, and there is as well a national memorial marking this. We don't want to advertise the sort of where and when on YouTube, but if you are interested in attending, please let me know. The national and the service will be at the regular. Our service will be at the regular time. The national event. If you wish to have details, please let me know, and I will pass them along to you. You can do that by either speaking with me or contacting me at minister@crossstreetchapel.org.uk. You can write if you have a pastoral concern of yourself, if you wish to join our mailing list, or if you wish to participate in our service or volunteer in some other way. We're grateful for any donations as well. For those who are here in person, we have a retiring collection and envelopes available for gift aid if you are a UK taxpayer. If you're online, you can contribute by going to tinyurl.com/crossstreetdonate, which will take you to our Just Giving page. And we are grateful for any donations that can assist in the mission of the chapel. We have a recital on the 26th at 1 p.m. featuring Ugnius Pauliaconus. That's Friday the 26th at 1 p.m. That marks the restarting of our Friday monthly recitals. If you feel uncomfortable attending, or if you are unable to attend, we are hoping to record it and to have it broadcast on our YouTube channel on Saturday the 27th. And then finally, on the 28th, the Sunday, so 2 weeks from today, we have our Advent/toy service where we collect toys which will go to the Wood Street Mission for those children in need at this time of year. Finally, so one final thing, sorry. We have restarted our sign-up sheets. So if you wish to contribute flowers, provide readings, greet, or help with the IT or the tea and coffee. And the tea and the IT is not the tea we drink. And if you are curious about helping with the IT, do speak with Emma or Joe or myself. We tried to make it as easy as possible. I hope that Emma and Joe would agree. Thumbs up, thank you. one or the other. So thank you. Do sign up for that. It's important that there isn't just my voice here, but that there's other contributions as well. And that's one way we can manage that. And Joe, do you have...
Committee meeting.
Oh, thank you. A committee meeting after the service next week for those on the committee. Are there any other... who is this, Catherine?
Just anybody who wants to come to the recital can either let me know that you're coming, or there's a booking address on the posters in the window, just so we have a rough idea of how many people are going to be here, and we can try and keep things as safe as possible for people.
Thank you. So if you didn't hear that online, there is an Eventbrite page set up. The posters have been put on Facebook. We'll try and get the word out a bit further than that as well. Or again, just write to me and we will make sure that you have a space reserved. At the moment, we're going to restrict the recital to about 25 to 30 seats. So let us now sing our final hymn, number 226 in the Green Book, The Song of Peace, words by Lloyd Stone and music by John Sibelius.
For land of far
Thank you to Catherine for the music. Thank you to Alan for greeting and for the flowers. To Laura and Joe for preparing and helping out in the start of the service. For Emma for the tea, for the IT, and Henry for the tea and coffee. And thank you to all of you for creating and sharing worship today. We close with those famous words of Lawrence Binyon. They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Amen. Go in peace.